This is the 2022 Kia EV6 with a dual motor all-wheel drive configuration and the GT Line 2 trim. Its sibling is the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and under the skin, they're almost identical. There are some rumors that the battery packs between this and the Ioniq 5 are not identical. They do have the same capacity and the same characteristics, but rumors have it that they're not exactly the same. I don't have any more details on that. If you do, please leave us a comment down below and explain what the difference is. As mentioned, this model has dual motors, all-wheel drive, the battery capacity is 77.4 kilowatt hours, and the car is predicting a 440 kilometer range, which is exactly what this model is rated for. Prices in Canada start at $45,000 for the short-range rear-wheel drive model, which only gets 167 horsepower and a 58 kilowatt-hour battery. The long-range rear-wheel drive cars start at $53,000, while the all-wheel drive long-range cars start at $55,000. This top trim, the GT Line 2, is $62,000, or if you want, $68,000 including Ontario taxes and the federal rebate. This top trim, having dual motors, is quite powerful. It makes 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque, and it can hit 100 kilometers an hour in 5.3 seconds. The onboard charger supports up to 10.9 kilowatts for a level 2 AC charging, or you can go to a DC fast charger and get a 10% to 80% charge in 18 minutes if you're able to pull the full 200 amps from the charger. The exterior design is pretty cool. Overall, it looks like the shape the Jaguar I-Pace introduced a few years ago, but the front is very low and sporty with a wide stance and these very dynamic headlights. The side profile is also very aggressive, and the line on the bottom continues all the way to the rear, which rear looks very Aston Martin-y with this taillight going from side to side. It also has this interesting diamond pattern trim below to make a powerful shape with the taillights above. And finally, the charge port is perfectly integrated on the right-hand side. It's almost hidden. It also has massive 20-inch wheels that make the 345mm disc brakes look super tiny behind them. Inside, the design is very modern. I really like it. Most materials are average grade, but the fitment between them is phenomenal. Over bumps, you don't hear a thing, and overall, the EV6 is very well insulated for an EV. You don't hear almost anything on the road, including wind noise. It only makes this funky sound when you accelerate. It sounds like you're blowing air into a bottle, but you can configure all that in case you don't like it. The seat position is terrible for me because where I sit, the steering wheel has to be a bit too high for me to be able to see the instrument cluster behind it. If I put the steering wheel where I want it, which is as low as it can go because that's kind of like the shoulder level, so my hands are like at the good distance and whatever, I can't see my range and I can't see my speed, which sucks. So I have to put the steering wheel a bit more up, like right there. Again, I can't see the whole screen, but at least I can see the information. And then my hands are too high up, so I get tired after a while. So what I end up doing is putting my elbow on the door and the other elbow over here, and I drive like this. So it's not a deal breaker. I don't hate it, but do I like it? No. The front seats look and feel great. I love this Alcantara leather combo with the stitching, but they do lack side support and some adjustability. Lots of people complain about the common media and climate controls. You can toggle between them pressing this button or by just hitting the auto climate control button, but that's only because they don't know how climate control works. I mean, seriously, you go to your climate control, you set the temperature you want, you set the intensity you want, everything is on automatic, you even sync your temperatures, whatever, and that's it. You set it once and you forget it forever. Even if it's like 30 degrees outside Celsius, it will go to 21, so it will kick in the air conditioning. If it's like minus 20 outside, it will give you as much heat as possible to achieve this 21 as quickly as possible. So you don't have to go put it at 28 if you're too hot or too cold or whatever. You just set it and forget it. And then, even if you want the defoggers, like the front and the rear, they have separate shortcuts that don't change. They're always there. So That's not inconvenient at all. This setup is actually genius. Visibility is great despite the shape, and ergonomics are pretty good too. The sound system is made by Meridian, and it's a surround sound system. It should have sounded a little bit better than it does. It's not bad, it's just not very impressive. What is very impressive, however, is the technology that you get on board, which is exactly shared as the Ioniq 5, but let's talk about it a bit. You get an all-digital instrument cluster that is very nice and complete in terms of information displayed, and the themes also changed based on the driving mode that you're using. The infotainment system works very well. It has tons of stuff to play with, but unfortunately it only supports wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It has a really good 360 camera that you can twist around and look around the car. Unfortunately, the car is white instead of red because, they should have been color matched. You get a really cool heads-up display that has some augmented reality features, like on the highway when you set the auto cruise control that actually does lane keep assist. It all works very well. You also get this dot that traces the car in front of you. It's actually pretty funny. You also get a wireless charging pad right here, and there's tons of space underneath the center console. The floor is flat, but there is like a cubby here. You get lots of USB ports, a cigarette lighter port. It's very practical in here. Like underneath here, you can just put like a purse. And under here, there's a lot of space too. Rear passengers get tons of space. The floor again is flat. They get heated seats and charge ports on the back of the front seats. On the bottom of the B-pillars, there's also some vents, so they get some fresh air. And finally, underneath the seat, there's a regular household plug if you want to charge a laptop or something. The rear seats also recline a little bit. So overall, the rear accommodation is pure perfection. The trunk is also quite large. It's 520 liters. It has a power tailgate and some extra room underneath the floor. The front is super tiny and very hard to get to because you have to undo the latch from inside the car, then undo the latch from the front of the car, then open the hood, open the second little cubby, and then you're greeted with next to no space. So just forget about it. On the road, once you get moving, the Kia EV6 is a very easy car to drive, and it's just very well balanced. Everything works in perfect harmony. Performance is what you'd expect with the dual motors and the horsepower it makes. It is explosive at full throttle, but it doesn't pull consistently as speed increases. It's more impressive for the first few seconds than later on. Like a 60 to 100 km/h pull feels much better than a 100 to 140, which is to be expected, but the difference is large enough to be noticed, a lot. 0 to 100 km/h comes in 5.3 seconds, and top speed is limited to 188 km/h. The steering wheel position might not be ideal for me, but the steering wheel itself looks quite good, and the steering system itself works quite well. Especially in sport mode, it gains the weight that I like. It doesn't feel completely lifeless. It's not bad at all. I like it. The brakes feel good, the brake pedal also, and from 100 km/h it came to complete stop in 39 meters. That's not bad at all. Handling is pretty well sorted out. The tuning of the suspension is very German-like. You might be shocked, but at the front it has McPherson struts, and at the rear it has a multi-link setup. What a surprise! The car fights understeer for as long as it can, and when it eventually starts going wide, you can kick the tail out and start a four-wheel drift. It is quite fun. I have to admit that it's nice to drive. It's playful. Woohoo! Ride comfort is really good. Despite the suspension being able to keep the heavy body under control, this thing weighs over 2 tons. Damping is soft, and over rough surfaces, the EV6 does a great job absorbing imperfections with ease. Overall, I do like and I appreciate the EV6. It's not a bad EV in any way. I just don't love it the same way I love the Hyundai Ioniq 5 or the Mustang Mach-E. So for that reason, I would consider it, but for me personally, it's not a top pick. Overall score is 7 out of 10, and a few other competitors to consider are the Tesla Model Y and Volvo XC40 Recharge. This one might be the cheapest and probably the easiest to get nowadays, so who knows, for other reasons it could end up at the top of your shopping list. If you do end up buying one and you don't mind the seating position, if it works for you, then why not? Great car. So that's pretty much it for the Kia EV6. If you like this video, please remember to share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel. Most importantly though, till next time, be well. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.